Hi all and welcome to my channel. It's Kaz here. Today we are going to be doing a knitted version of this pattern of my mother's World War II bunny, okay, that was made for her by my Auntie Mamie in the 1940s. And I've got a sewing pattern there as well, which is free to download if you want to do the sewn version of this. And it's basically a challenge or a project to get this bunny all around the world like my parents used to. Anyway, I'm not going to go on too much about that. Today's project for your Addi and Sentro users, okay, like I am, is this version, and I've done a knitted version, okay, so that all you people who use Addis and Sentros can take part in my challenge. All right, so this is the sewn version, and these are the replicas I made based on my mother's original bunny. Okay, so these are the sewn versions, and there is a pattern for these, but today we're going to be making this little booty. All right, so stay tuned and we'll crack on with the pattern and everything you need in order to make it. Project, I'm going to be using So Crafty Aran yarn, which I got from my local Aldi, and the colours Petrol Blue, and Amelia Fleck yarn in this lovely creamy colour, and this yellow Aran yarn, which I think is again the So Crafty Aran yarn from Aldi, but I've lost the label, and it's a lovely delicious yellow colour. For this project you're going to need a scissors, a darning needle, a crochet hook and some pins. You're going to need some spare yarn to do the mouth and nose detail, and some eyes, and I'm using the 14mm plastic eyes there. They've got a little colourful disc background that comes with them if you want to use that, and I had those from AliExpress, but of course you could always use buttons as well. I've knitted all my pieces in advance, so I'm going to run you through now exactly what you need to knit up in order to assemble this bunny, okay? So this is the body, and I've knitted 130 rows in total, and it's 40 rows in the dark, 50 rows in the yellow, and another 40 then in the dark. For the head I've knitted 50 rows using my Addi 46, but you can also use the 48, same as the body, that was on the Addi 46 or the 48, and that was 50 rows for the head. On the Addi 22 I've knitted 60 rows made up of 15 rows of the cream, 30 rows of the yellow and 15 rows of the cream. And I've done that twice because there's two arms. For the ears I've used the 22 pin machine and I've knitted 30 rows and I've made 2 of those. If you want a shorter ear you can do 20 rows, or a really long ear 50 rows. But I've done 30 rows in the cream to match the head. For the neck piece on the 22 needle machine I have knitted 16 rows, and I cast on with waste yarn and I cast off with waste yarn. And lastly, for the muzzle on the 22 pin machine I cast on as normal, knitted 16 rows and I cast off as normal. And on to the assembly process. We're going to start with the body section. Now my Addi hated this yellow, so please forgive the really bad stitching there. It loved the grey was no problem whatsoever. Yellow hated it. But we will crack on anyway regardless. It's about the build, not the quality of the yarn on my machine, so please forgive that. So to assemble the body of my rabbit, I have turned the body piece in on itself as if making a beanie, okay? And what I've done is that I've gathered both ends in, alright, but not fully cinched them. And this is the wrong side of my beanie. I'm going to be turning it out to the right side, so this is going to be on the inside. And I have made my aperture here 4 inches, okay? So cinch both ends in until they're about 4 inches or so. Make sure that they're all lined up, and what we're going to do is we're going to basically just sew the ends together. I didn't want the end to be totally cinched, and putting waste yarn on would have given me it too wide, so I'm just going to zigzag back and forth, and this is going to be on the inside because I'll be turning this inside out later. So seal this up, or you can go over if you prefer, but I'm just going to do it as if I'm on a sewing machine. Back and forth and seal it up. Don't forget to go through all of the layers. And carry on until you get to the end and just secure tightly with a knot. Once you've finished stitching all the way across there and secured your tails, and you're sure that you've got all of the 4 layers secure there in that seam, you can turn your project the right side out. And we've got a kind of a square end there, which is what I was aiming for. Now then, it looks like I've got a little bit of a missed stitch there, okay? And if you have, you can catch that with a little bit of mattress stitch back and forth there to correct that. So don't worry if you have missed a little bit of the stitching in the main seam there. For the next stage, we're going to do another little bit of hand sewing, nothing major, okay? We're going to split this in half, so you need your measuring tape. And this is 7, so about 3.5 for me is going to be there. And I'm going to run a line up that line there, or so, probably about 5 inches up. Okay, so along there I'm going to sew 5 inches up from the bottom with a corresponding yarn. So to make sure I don't lose my line, like I said, it was 7, wasn't it? So we're going to mark 3.5. So I'm going to put a little pin in there just for my own eyeballs to follow. Another little one in there. It's getting buried slightly, so I should use my other pins, I think. And about 5 inches up, so to about there. So I'm going to get another pin, and I'm going to put my little pin across there, so that's where I stop. Okay, so a running stitch, nice to seal that off there, and we're going to make 2 legs that way. So with your darning needle and matching yarn to your bottom of your project, we're going to sew up here. Make sure now that you're going to go through all of these layers, okay? Because we need to separate these 2 pieces into 2 separate legs. And I'm going to leave a tail so I can sort that out later. And I'm just going to do a running stitch from back to front all the way up. And I'm going to double back on myself, and it is difficult to see. So do that all the way up to that line there, that 5-inch line all the way up. There we are at our 5-inch mark, and for my own peace of mind I'm going to do another row of stitches down to the bottom and tie off with that tail I left there. So now I've stitched all the way back down to the bottom again. I'm going to tie these off and hide my tails inside then. Nice strong knot there. Hide my tails now inside the body. I've marked the front of my piece here with a pin because, as I've already said, my stitching on the yellow isn't that great, so I'm picking the best side to go to the front. Alright, so we're going to put our body part to one side now. We're going to move on to the head. And moving on to the head, it's easy peasy. We're just going to make a beanie, one end inside the other, and cinch completely closed, securing with some knots and stitches. You can hide the tails inside, or do what I do and turn it inside out. Arrange all your gathers so they're nice and even and everything is looking nice and smart. Next stage, and I use the tail that I just cut off from cinching up my beanie, is to put that tail onto a darning needle. And what we're going to do now is to run a drawstring along the bottom edge of this part here. We won't do anything with it straight away, but we'll put it in while we're here. So every 2 stitches, as you can see there, 2, miss 2, 2, miss 2, 2, or thereabouts. I'm not too specific with mine, to be honest. I don't worry too much. In the end, it's going to be gathered together. So don't worry if you miss a stitch or you are not quite as precise as every other 2, alright? As long as it gathers in, that's what I say. So I'm trying to do it every two. All the way around the bottom. There we are, back at the beginning, and we will just put that to one side now and move on to doing the arms. Moving on to the arms and the paw, we're going to basically do a beanie again, and we're going to feed one end inside the other and cinch both ends tightly closed. Once you've hidden your tails inside or turned it inside out like I have here, grab a small amount of filling, okay, stuffing, pop it right down the bottom and stuff it right down. Alright, I'm trying to hide my bad stitching in there. So stuff it right down to the bottom and then fold your project in half like that. And with some yarn on a darning needle, and I'm using the cream because that's the paler of the two, mattress stitch up all the way up, matching the line up as far as you can. It'll go a little bit out once you go there, but just do your best to match it up and finish it off there. Okay, so we're going to mattress stitch from the bottom about up to there, about 1.5 inches from the end of the paw. It's a little trickier at the top to keep the same line, so just do your best to keep it as parallel as possible. Don't worry if you go out a little bit. I do. I'm going to stop about 1 inch or so from the end there. And I'm going to seal off them with a little knot. Job done. Hide my tails inside there. Push the stuffing down. If it's risen up a little bit, you can get your finger down there to push the stuffing down a little bit. Okay. And we do the same now with the other paw. So we've got two exactly the same. And just a little tip, if you find that you've got unequal amounts of stuffing in the end of your paws, okay, which I did, this one's a little bit more stuffy than that one, you've still got time to push a little bit down that centre gap there. Alright, and push it down, and I used a long pencil in order to pack it down the bottom like that, okay? So you've got a more identical set of legs and paws. Next, moving on to the muzzle, it's simple pimples again. We're going to cinch both ends. So we end up with a little tube, okay, and then we're going to manipulate it so that the both cinched ends are touching. Okay, and put your yarn on a darning needle from one of the ends and just secure it together. Okay, you can put a few knots in there if you'd like. Like that. And then straight through to the other side and make a little disc like that. Alright, secure it then, or you can tie these two tails together, and what you end up with is a little cup shape, and that's the muzzle done. I'm just going to tie mine off here to secure it together. Make sure that it's all nice and tightly cinched together, like that. So organise your gathers so they're nice and neat and tidy, or as tidy as you can get them. I find pushing my fingers in like that and pushing it over helps a lot. And that's our muzzle. So I'm going to use this side, so I need to pull my tails into the other side. Turning our attentions to the neck section, we're going to turn one end inside the other, And we're going to match the stitches up all the way around, and we're going to seal this tube closed by catching one from one side and one stitch from the other. I'll just demonstrate quickly now, but there are lots of videos on YouTube if you're not quite sure of this step. Just grab one stitch from one side and one stitch from the other, pull it through like that, and zigzag all the way around. Some people prefer to crochet with a length of yarn as well, and that's a good idea as well, but I do it this way because I'm no crocheter. So do that all the way around until it's completely sealed off, and remove your waste yarn. Once you've finished and you've removed your waste yarn, hide your tails inside your work. And the seam there that you've crocheted, okay, you can move that into the inside by squashing it in half like that, all the way around. And then you'll find that that seam is on the inside like that. Moving on to assembly of the ears, and it's nice and easy, this one. You just cinch one end and cinch the other, and that's it, job done. Okay, after you cinch it, then a couple of little stitches on both ends. Now what I've opted to do on this one, it's a trial. I'm not sure whether it's going to work out when I fit it to the bunny, so I'm going to leave it unfixed at the moment, and then I'll see how it works out, and I may very well just go back to the normal ear. And what I've added is this. It's a very thin, it's about 1 centimetre thick wadding that I use for quilting, alright? And what I've done is I've measured it there like that on top of my ear, and I've cut a little curvy little shape to match the shape of it, and I've added it inside. Now I just wanted the ear to stand out a little proud on the side of the head a little, but I'm not sure how that's going to work out. I'm doing this pattern off the cuff. I've not practiced it before, so it is out of my head straight onto film. Alright, so we'll see how the ears work out, but if you want to do a straight normal ear, cinch both ends and add a few knots and stitches. So now we've knitted up all our parts and prepared them ready for assembly. Let's jump right in and get this rabbit made. We're going to start by attaching our eyes, and I'm going to put mine, to show you quickly now, approximately 7 centimetres down from the crown to the bottom of the eye. And I'm going to be placing them about 4 centimetres apart, so roughly there. So make sure they're level. I'm just going to put them just in there like that now. Now I've got these little discs that I need to put behind my eyes there, these little glistening discs, okay, so I'll do that off camera, but just to show you, that's when I'm kind of putting my eyes there. So my eyes are now attached and secured at the back, and now the next stage is to stuff the head. So grab a wad of stuffing, pop it in, and what I like to do is to push it to the outside first, and then make sure that's all nice and fluffed out, and I'll add a little bit more in the centre, and then I'll pull in my cinch, okay, to cinch that together, but don't pull this all the way closed. What we're aiming for is about a 2.5 inch. I'm kind of going in between inches and centimetres, guys, so I will, right we are, we're looking for about 2.5 inches, need a little bit slacker there, about 2.5 inch circle, or thereabouts, okay, which is about 5 centimetres. And when you get to that kind of circumference, stop and tie off your circle. Okay, so I'm happy with that, so I'm going to put a knot in there now to secure it. I'm going to leave the tail on because that may very well be handy for sewing together later. So there's our little head done and ready. So the next stage, if you wanted to do it now, is to add the buttons. I'd suggest adding them now to make it easy to sew on. So I've attached 2 buttons already, and I just popped on quickly to show you how I'm doing that, okay? So I've got them like that, and all I'm doing is I'm taking a length of yarn, and I'm coming in from the back there, leaving a length on the back, coming through on the front, and then I'm just tying off with a knot, rather than sewing on as you would if you were sewing on fabric. I'm just doing it this way. But you don't have to use buttons, of course. You can completely leave those off if you prefer. There you go, 3 buttons. Now I'm going to run my drawstring around and then I'll pop back on. And with our drawstring complete, we just need to stuff the body now. So stuff the legs and stuff the body. Okay, and I'll pop back on and we will do the cinching at the top together. And here's my body stuffed as far as I want to stuff him at the moment. We can adjust it a little bit later if we want to. We have some last minute touching up to do. And what we need to do now is to cinch the top of our body so it matches the same size as our head. If you remember, we did that to 2.5 inches. Okay, you can go a little bit smaller or bigger, but not by much. Okay, so 2.5 inches is the go-to for me. So 2.5, there we are, that's about it for me. Okay, 2.5, which is about 5 to 6 centimeters. 7 centimeters, no, 6, just over 6.5 centimeters roughly. Okay, but 2.5 inches for me, because I'm an inches girl. Well, I kind of go between the both actually, but we're working on inches for this at the moment. So tie that off at 2.5 inches. And then that's done. And we'll move on then to the next section. I'm going to trim that off there, and I'm just going to push that in there because it doesn't really matter. And we're going to move on now to preparing the neck area, okay? And here's the neck section that we made earlier, because we prepared all our bits in advance because we were really organised this time, very unlike me. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to attach the neck like that, okay, with mattress stitch. Okay, so with matching yarn on your darning needle, you can go with either beige or yellow. I'll probably go with yellow for this one. Mattress stitch all the way around in between here, matching up as best as you can. It may not match up perfectly, but with a little bit of manipulation, okay, just stitch all the way around there now with mattress stitch. Tie off and hide your tails inside. Now we've completed stitching the neck section onto the body, add a little bit of stuffing into the little gap there, okay, and we take our head section and center it, okay, to me I can use my buttons because they are central. And what we're going to do again now is to mattress stitch between the head and the neck all the way around. And I've left a tail on my head, more through luck than judgment I think, so I'm going to use that, and I'm going to do that now. I'm just going to add a few pins in between the neck and the head there, just to make sure that it doesn't shift, so I want it to remain central. So use a few pins or clips or something like that. And so on like that all the way around the neck, pulling as you go. As you come to the last inch or two before closing off completely, now's your last chance to adjust any of your stuffing levels in the neck and the head. So crack on and do that if you need to, and then finish off completely. Once the head is attached to the neck, we're going to move on to the muzzle, okay? Now I've added a tiny little bit of stuffing in the centre of the muzzle there like that. And what we're going to do is you're going to find the bit that we like as the top of it. I'm going to choose that. And it's going to be in between the eyes there, just higher than the bottom of each eye in the centre there, okay? And we're going to stretch it out a little bit to the left and a little bit to the right, and we're going to mattress stitch this into place. And as we get to the end, leave a little gap and you can adjust your stuffing once again, okay? So that's what we're going to do now. And just another little tip about positioning, we are heading for about 1 centimetre up from the bottom of the neckline, okay? Now we've finished attaching our muzzle and it's looking very cute, we can move on to attaching the arms to the body. Now I've got my tail on a darning needle there, and what I like to do, just tuck that in there, is it's flat at the top, but I like to kind of angle it a little bit. So you get that kind of 45-degree angle come in there. So I'm going to attach mine, I'd say leave about an inch gap on the side, okay, and just mattress stitch that arm in place and do the same for the other side. So just to recap, that's an inch down on the side and mattress stitch all the way around. I've just popped on to show you that I've got the seam of the arm there pointing downwards towards the leg, okay? I'll carry on here now and I'll see you when they're both attached to the body. If you remember at the beginning of the project I was doing the ear preparation and I said to you that I had added a little bit of stuffing into one, the padding. Now I've offered both up to the bunny and personally I prefer it without. Okay, so I'm going to put my bunny ear, it's sticking out a little bit too much for me, so I'm going to just use a normal cinched piece, okay, rather than adding the padding. So I'm going to take that padding out now and attach the ears, okay, and when we're attaching the ears you will have already cinched yours and closed yours off ready to go, but this is my tail for sewing on. And what you get when you cinch is that natural little arc there. You can see that little arc, okay? Alright, and that little arc we're going to use to our benefit, and we're going to pop that there. About an inch from the crown, an inch or so from there. Just grab my measuring tape and double check. It's actually about 1.5 inches, my mistake. Okay, so 1.5 inches from the crown down. And we're going to just mattress stitch our ear at the top. We'll pop it up in the air and we'll mattress stitch a little bit underneath as well to make sure it's nice and secure. And then we'll do the other side. And with the ears attached, the next step is to do the nose and mouth detail. Just popping back on with a little more wobbling about ears, okay? Now, I've offered mine up, like I said, like that, but you've got other options as well. If you do a slightly shorter ear, okay, maybe 20, you could flatten that down like that and attach the ear so it's more sticky uppy. Obviously with a shorter ear, okay? So you've got various options of the way you could attach your ear. So play around. You don't have to stick to the way I've done mine. You can attach different lengths of ear and different styles of ear. This is quite a soft yarn, so you may get a stiffer ear if you use a different kind of yarn as well, which may stick up even better. And one of the final steps now is to add the nose and the mouth detail. So I've got a very long, I would say about 3 foot of DK dark brown yarn on a darning needle, and I'm going to come from the back, doesn't matter where, just pop in there, and I'm going to come right through the center there, okay? Hopefully if my needle plays ball, there we go, right through the center of that cinched area there. Now when you pull through, leave a tail, okay, because we'll be dealing with that later in order to tie off our work. So I'm going to leave a nice decent tail so I don't get carried away and pull it through. Okay, so now I'm going to go up at 45 degrees there, okay, and come across to there, okay. So 45 degrees is roughly there, and I'm going to eyeball coming out there to center the nose. I think that's about right. You can put pins in if you want to mark it out before you start. So that's the one side. Then I'm going to go back in through that hole there, okay, and I'm going to come over to the left hand side for me, quite high up because I want to smile, and pull that through. Not too tight because you don't want to pull that, and that's a nice little nose area there, okay. So from there I'm going to come underneath the nose there, okay, and I'm going to come up on that center piece there again, Trying to get it right in the center there. Oops, caught around my arm there. Not my arm, the bunny's arm. Okay, then I'm going to go back in that hole there. Try and match the edge of that smile up over there. Pull that through. And hope it's straight, and then back through there. Yep, that's about right. And back out where we came through at the beginning. And try and come out in exactly the same place, where you need to come out in exactly the same place. And it's a bit of trial and error. There we go, exactly where we started off. So we're coming out through the same hole. And I've squished my chops there a little bit, so just loosen that off a tad. And there we go, we have a bunny smile. Let's pull that out ever so slightly. There we go, and that's the smile and nose of our little bunny rabbit. Alright, so at the back now, I'm going to cut off the excess here because I've got way too much on there. I'm just going to tie these off. Tie them off like that. Not too tight because you don't want to distort your details at the front. Trim them off. Use your darning needle to take the tails back into the head, and I'll do that off camera now, alright? And that's our face finished, and you can see I've buried the knot there in the head. That's disappeared. So to finish our project, I'm not quite sure what little embellishments I'm going to add, whether I'll add a bow tie or a scarf. So bear with me a sec while I pop off and have a little think about what I'm going to add to finish our little bunny rabbit off. Alright, so for my bunny, what I've decided to do is to make a little scarf, and that's 100 rows, 110 rows, okay, on an Addi 22, and I put 2 little pom-poms on the end. I chose purple because it's a kind of a complementary colour to go with the yellow. Okay, yellows and blues, complementary colours, fabulous. So that's what I've done there. And what I think I'm going to do, although it's not on the original bunny, but it may very well have been and fallen off over time, who knows. But this is a little bit of artistic license based on my mother's original World War II bunny, made by my Auntie Mamie. Okay, so I have got, on the back end here, I think I'm going to add a pom-pom for a bunny tail, because if you're going to be using this as an Easter bunny, and by all means do that, that's absolutely fabulous, I'm going to attach a bunny tail. Now, would I go with black? Because he's not black, he's not a black bunny, see, he's a kind of a beigey bunny, but I like the black against the black of the trousers, okay? But bunnies do come in multiple colours, or the beige one. Do you know, guys, I'm going to go with the black one. So I'm going to get some yarn now, some black yarn, and I'm going to thread it through there, and I'm going to attach it to the back of my bunny rabbit, and I think we can call our Peter and Anita bunny rabbit done. Yay! So as you can see, for my pom-pom, I've taken a length of black yarn, and I'm threading it through my pom-pom just to make sure that it's going to be nice and secure when I attach it. And it was a little bit of a struggle to get that through. So there you go, it's on there now, alright? And what we're going to do is pop it on the back of our bunny like that, making sure that the pile is going the right way. That's better, pile pointing down. So I'll thread that back on there now, so I should have left it on there. So I'm going to find the centre of my bunny, roughly about there. Yeah, about there. And then I'm going to tie this pom-pom tail on, and I'll hide my tails then in the body of the bunny. Tie that nice and firm. A couple of good knots. I'll wrap that one around twice so it's not going anywhere. And there's our bunny tail. You can leave that off, of course, if you don't fancy putting a bunny tail on there. I just thought to add a little bit of extra bling, just in case you are going to use this pattern as an Easter bunny, okay? Because that's perfectly fine as well. So So I'm going to hide my tails in here now. And we'll do the final reveal and recap. And now I can say for definite that my Anita Peter bunny is done, okay? Now whether you do an Anita version or a Peter version, that's entirely up to you. Now remember, this bunny rabbit is a dedication to my parents, okay? So if you make it, please make it. Tag me on Instagram or leave a message in the comments below to tell me where in the world you are. That's all I need to know is where you are in the world and where my bunny has ended up, all right, whether you do the sewn version or the knitted version here, okay? CraftyCaz33 and CraftyCazchallenge on Instagram, or a message in the comments below is just as good for me, so I know where everything is. So if you want to pop in and have a quick look at the video on sewing this bunny as well, I'll get the original bunny for you to see now. And this is my mother's original bunny. As you can see, it's a rendition of the original bunny. It's difficult sometimes to make something identical in a different medium, like yarn here. I've got a sewing pattern for this one, which is pretty bang on. It's a little bit different in places, of course, but not, you know, not too dissimilar. But like I said, this is a rendition. And I hope you love it, because I love it so much, because it reminds me obviously of my parents. So, ta-ra for now, and if you make it, please tag me. I'd love to see your version. Thank you ever so much for tuning in. As always, I love to have your company with me, and if this pattern is of use to you, especially if you sell your knitted and sewn items, maybe give a little donation to a local animal shelter to you, or a local animal charity. That would absolutely mean the world to me. Alright, thank you ever so much, guys. Take care of yourself, and thanks for your continued support. I really appreciate it. Say bye, bunnies. Bye.